As per usual, Duke won the offseason with bringing back a group of talented basketball players as well as another loaded incoming crop of freshmen. But after watching a nearly completed regular season's worth of games, here's my question. Are the Tar Heels just simply a better basketball team?
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, March 7th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. Joining me today is our guy, Coach Bill Robinson, joining us from his boyhood bedroom. You love to see that. Thanks, Coach, for making a special appearance there, which he said is now the lighthouse bedroom. You are joining us, folks, at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch every day. Special shout out to all you everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Coach, Notre Dame and the rest of the regular season is all in the rearview mirror. So today it's Duke and onward, and that's where we're focusing in our attention. As we get into it, though, I do need to quickly clear up a misstated stat that I said on Wednesday's show, because nothing kills me more than saying something statistically wrong. So let me say it right, especially because it slighted the Tar Heels. So on Wednesday's show, I said that UConn last year was the only team to ever win all 6 NCAA tournament games by double digits. That's not wrong. And in fact, I realized it later and was like kicking myself. The truth is, the actual stat is that UConn is the only team to ever win all 6 games by 13 or more points. So it's even more impressive. There are, however, 5 schools that have won all 6 games by double digits. So let me give them some shine. Michigan State in 2000, Duke the very next year, 01, Carolina in 09, of course, Villanova in 2018, and then UConn last year. So there you go. Just always want to own it when I'm wrong and make sure we get the right information out there. So apologies to anyone who was offended, which includes me. I was offended at myself. So, Coach, we're fully in Duke mode, as I said, 19 ACC games down, 1 to go. Duke is playing phenomenal basketball right now. Carolina, I would say, is playing much better basketball as well on this 5-game winning streak. This projects to be an absolutely electric game on Saturday night. But, Coach, here's the deal. Remembering back to the offseason, you get Jeremy Roach back and Tyrese Proctor back and Kyle Filipowski and Mark Mitchell, and everyone's losing their respective minds of like, oh, Duke's going to set the world on fire. But they haven't, Coach. They just haven't. And that is a truth. North Carolina, playing a more difficult schedule, has a 1-game lead on the Blue Devils in the ACC standings. So here's my question. Are the 23-24 Tar Heels just simply a better team than is Duke?
I think your focus on team is the big word in that whole sentence right there. Obviously, Duke has tons of talent and maybe more talent. But it comes down to the actual game, how it's played, how they play together. I think there's no doubt right now that Carolina's the better team. That doesn't mean that they're going to win Saturday. Doesn't mean they're going to win at all. But as a team right now, I think overall they're playing better. And that's why you got to play the game. It's going to be an unbelievable matchup, obviously. And that's why home court matters so much. I think if there's so much closeness, and I don't want to go to the officials, but of course officials always kind of tend towards a little bit maybe at the home court too. But when it comes down to the actual, if this was played in a neutral site, this was played with no fans, I just believe that Carolina's a better overall team. Their depth's better. Defensively, I think they're better. And I think that's what makes them, gives them a little bit of the edge coming this weekend.
Coach, let's zoom outside of just the Carolina Duke of it all. In general, do you find that to be true? Like a team, as you're focusing on, trumps a collection of talent, assuming, of course, that team is still pretty talented themselves, which I agree with you. Like on paper, Duke might be the more talented collection of individual basketball players. But Carolina, as you and I would both say, is still a very talented group. But in general, what I'm asking is, does at least decently talented team trump really strong individual talent?
I think what it comes down to is you're going to have some kind of roadblock. You're going to have something bad happen. You're going to have a bad stretch. You're going to go through something that you didn't plan for.
Interesting.
Something, there's going to be a 10-0 run. There's going to be a stretch where you don't score for 5 minutes. When you have a collection of individuals, they will try to go get theirs. They will go try to, I'll go make the difference. I'll go make the ball.
Yeah.
And then if you have a team, they're going to sit there and say, hey, we've been through this before. And that's where the maturity comes in. That's where you have a collection of guys who have played well together for a while. That helps when those tough times come, and they're going to come. And it's going to happen. You're going to have to, overcome a big run. You're going to have to overcome a bad situation. And that's when teams step up instead of individuals step up.
And that very well could happen at Duke on Saturday, as you said, Coach, facing adversity on the road, maybe a little bit of 8-on-5 on the floor. We'll have to see what happens there, because here's the truth. At the same time, in a rivalry, as we well know, anything legitimately can happen. We've seen lesser Carolina teams beat better Duke teams. We've seen lesser Duke teams beat better Carolina teams. Like, it cuts both ways, unfortunately, in this rivalry. But, Coach, here's my question. If Carolina is the better team, as you and I believe that they are, and if they will probably face some adversity on Saturday, how do they prove that yet again on Saturday they are the better team in 23-24?
I think the defense is what's going to have to make them prove it.
That's a good word.
And again, their depth is great. Duke's got great depth too offensively, but it comes down to, can they get the stops? Stops quiets the crowd. If you can't score, it just quiets the crowd. The NC State game the other night, NC State just couldn't get a defensive rebound. And so it's not just getting a miss, it's getting the complete stop. There's nothing better for a coach than to see a defensive rebound. To know that you finished the possession, you've stopped them, now it's your possession. Now you get a chance to go score. It's one of the greatest feelings in the world. But that's where it comes down to me. Can they get defensive stops? Can they keep the crowd out of it? Can they throw the first punch? Not literally, figuratively, but can they come out and make a run to start the game and kind of take the crowd out of it? A couple nights ago, Wake Forest and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech scored the first 14 points of the game or something at Wake Forest.
Yeah.
And you take the crowd out of it, then all of a sudden there's just these little murmurings instead of the huge cheers, and it takes all the energy out of the building. Cameron's such a small building that when the energy happens, it escalates it so much better. So it's one of those things where I think they need to come out and play well. That first 5-minute segment is going to be huge.
By the way, big thank you to Georgia Tech, who's moved up significantly in the net, and it looks like that loss is going to stay a Q2 loss now. So way to go, Yellow Jackets. Hate it for Wake Forest, man. They might miss this tournament. And Coach, I mean, you talked about that NC State Duke game on Monday night. Yeah, Duke had 14 first half offensive rebounds. That's insane. That's an insane number for an entire game, much less the first 20 minutes of it. And so, I mean, you look at that, and so that brings up a question that, to me, Coach, is maybe something else that the Tar Heels can exploit. Is one of the Duke's biggest personnel issues to me is their lack of a true five. Carolina exploited that in round one. Armando had 25 points on a silly 10 of 13 from the field for Armando in that game. And referencing back to that NC State game you were just talking about on Monday, DJ Burns, who, by the way, Carolina had just held to 6 points because they have a true five in Armando. Burns goes for 27 against Duke on Monday night. That is a season high for him, just like 4 off his career high. Coach, is that another area that could be exploitable once again for the Tar Heels?
I think it's a huge issue. And what did NC State do? They went to Burns over and over and over again, got Filipowski in foul trouble in the first half. Now all of a sudden he's out of the game. Now your offensive flow is not quite the same. You take one of your big stars out. And I think that's what you have to go to them early. The game plan's got to be get the ball to Armando, see how they defend it. Are they going to double it? Are they not? Are they going to let it go one-on-one? Kick it back out, reestablish, throw it back into him again, and allow him to really attack Filipowski inside. That's how I think from an offense perspective. But it's a huge advantage for Carolina on Saturday night. And he's your guy. He's your All-American. You got to throw the ball to him every time down the floor, at least to start the game.
That's right. I love your point there in particular about finding out what they're going to do defensively to stop it, right? Is Mondo just going to be able to go to work and get flip and foul trouble, or is he going to have to be more of a facilitator and rely on the 4 guys around him to make shots? So that'll be a key to watch out for on Saturday. Now, Coach, I want to play a fun game together here as we look ahead to this game on Saturday. This is a little game of fill in the blank, Duke edition. I'm sorry that I've just triggered all you college students listening to the show out there. Hopefully, I've not made it too bad. Coach and I will play that game coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you, this episode is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits to LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. They've got over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, and so you'll always find exactly what you're looking for at eBay. And with eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, Coach Bill Robinson, Isaac Schade here with you on Thursday, getting you ready for Carolina and Duke coming up on Saturday evening. And we're going to play a little game of fill in the blank where we each answer a couple fill in the blank questions. We're first going to start out big picture with this thing. If Carolina wins on Saturday, clinching, by the way, an outright ACC championship, the 22nd outright ACC championship, if they get that in Carolina history. If Carolina wins on Saturday, it's because fill in the blank. Coach, I'll let you go first.
For me, it's the defense. We already alluded to it a little bit, but to add to that, it's also the rebound. The defensive rebounding, to me, it's going to be an electric atmosphere. It's going to be, the enemy territory. The defense has to be the one to stop. You're not going to score every time down the floor, and it's a tough place to play, obviously, and to be able to run your offense efficiently and do all those little things, it's going to be very difficult. So if you can get stops, if you can get rebounds and offensive rebounds at the other end as well, get some second, third shots, to me, that's the huge key. You've got to be able to slow them down. I don't think we can outscore them. If it comes down to a trading baskets back and forth, and the game gets up into, not that Carolina can't score. I think They can. But it scares me if we get into a game where it's just a high scoring game. I'd like to see the game more in the mid 70s, maybe low 80s, but somewhere in that area, to me, to be able to be a victory for the Heels.
Coach, for me, Carolina wins on Saturday because they are able to control themselves and be the better team that we talked about earlier. There is a mindset that comes with experience, and I've been there before. And we'll talk about this a little more later. But what I want to say right here is 2 years ago in this exact same game, the regular season finale, and all the hoopla of the Coach K carousel of what all it was, 2 men that will start this game for the North Carolina Tar Heels started that same game, and that's RJ Davis. I don't know what those balloons are on my screen if everyone's watching. That was weird. RJ Davis and Armando Bacot. Both of those men started that game for North Carolina. They've been there before. They've done it. They've won that game. So if Carolina wins on Saturday, it's because they rely on their experience against a lesser experienced Duke team. Not that Duke doesn't have experience, but Carolina's got more of it. They showed that against Notre Dame in a big way on Tuesday night, utilizing their experience, letting Notre Dame be the team to make mistakes. So that's what I want to see from Carolina, is relying on their experience to help win the day. All right, Coach, fill in the blank part 2 here. Harrison Ingram and Seth Trimble were the X factors for Carolina in round 1. Harrison, you might recall, 21 points on 8 of 12 shooting, 5 3-pointers in 9 attempts, 13 boards, and 4 steals. What a silly stat line. It was insane. And Seth, off the bench, had 10 points on 5 of 9 field goals, and also critically, 2 assists, 0 turnovers for Seth Trimble. So, Coach, fill in the blank number 2. In round 2, North Carolina's X factor will be who or what?
To me, it's Elliot Cadeau. And he's no longer a freshman in my mind. Once you get to second semester and you play as many minutes as he is, all right, he's earned the title, of being the leader, at least with the ball in his hands right now. He has to be able to make plays. They're going to try to take RJ away. They're going to come up with some kind of scheme to be able to keep the ball out of Armando's hands. Elliot's got to make plays, whether it's at the rim or whether he's setting somebody else up. And then he's got to be able to defend those guards. They got a ton of guards. They're deep. Can he stay in front? Can he guard them without getting in foul trouble? We've seen him get in foul trouble quickly. So to me, he is the X factor for Saturday night.
Well, Coach, you stole my answer, so I'm just gonna say ditto. Completely agree. Like Elliot, like that was the no-brainer for me. And I always in these kind of games, there's somebody unexpected. But I think just in terms of managing the game, it's got to be Elliot. Here's what I will add. I think he is capable of rising to that occasion. He's been on these kind of big stages. He's been in these moments while in high school, while playing for the Sweden national team. He's got this ability, and I think he can do it, but he's got to go out and prove it yet again. So well said, Coach. That was the exact right answer. Congrats to you. Final fill in the blank, but it's a twofer. We'll take it one at a time. I want, Coach, you to be both coaches. So first off, on the Carolina side, if I'm Hubert Davis, I'm most concerned about blank.
If I'm Hubert Davis, I'm more concerned about Jared McCain than anybody. And I'll tell you why. I always look, as part of my coaching thing, I always look and see trends. What's the guy done the last 3 games? What's he done the last 5 games? Who's hot, who's not, and Jeremy Roach has been, to me, he's been a killer. And I hate seeing him on the floor still. When I heard he was coming back, he was the one. I was more worried about him than Filipowski coming back. To be honest, but he has not shot the ball well lately. So McCain has, and we kind of see maybe a little bit of a change just in the momentum with those two guys right now. As a guard, I always worried about who I was going to be facing. Didn't have to worry about the post guys. I was never going to guard those guys. So when I start looking about, thinking about who really scares me, it's McCain right now for the Devils.
I like that. Yeah, he to me is their MVP. Like, with all due respect to Flip and Roach and Proctor and everyone else, dude, Jared McCain is a dude, Coach. I really like his game, unfortunately. But yeah, that's a good word. I'm going to go to more of a thing than a player with my answer. I'm most concerned about avoiding the Duke run in Cameron. We've seen it time and time again where Duke just gets that big crowd behind him, as you were talking earlier. And because it's a small building, there's just this energy that creeps in, and man, they can get on a run. And if you don't stop it, you're done and you're gone and you're over. Now, here's what's encouraging for Carolina, as we said earlier, is that they are an experienced team that can survive a quick 8-0 spurt or whatever it is. But still, you got to watch out for those moments, not let one mistake turn into two, not let one, whatever turn into more, and then just weather anything like that and be able to deliver a counter punch when Duke punches. Now, Coach, let's go to the other side of it. If I'm Jon Scheyer, I'm going to give you an A or B. So this is an would you rather, I guess, rather than a fill in the blank. If I'm Jon Scheyer, I'm A, sticking with my game plan from round 1, or B, throwing something new at the Tar Heels.
If I'm Scheyer, it's a B. I'm going to throw something different at him. If you look at the Syracuse game, obviously the zone really bothered Carolina, whether it's a zone or whether it's a different type of matchup or whether it's some kind of trapping, half court, just something different to get Carolina out of their rhythm. I would expect something like that. One of the things we like to do is sometimes just deny the point guard, 94 feet. We're not trapping, but we're just going to, if he touches it, we're going to make him give the ball up, and then we're not going to let him touch it again. The time it takes for him to fight to get the ball back, that shot clock's rolling, and all of a sudden you look up and it's under 20, and you're out of your rhythm. You're not able to run your normal stuff. Something like that is what I expect to see. Maybe it's a different matchup on Armando. Maybe it's Mitchell on him or somebody else different. I don't know. I don't know his personnel enough to know what he would want to do, but maybe it's something that you throw something that just is totally unexpected at him. And that's what after losing last time, that's what I would do.
Yeah, because for me, if you just run the same script back, sure, maybe taking RJ out of commission again, which RJ still was the third leading scorer. And you got guys that hit shots more. Like Proctor did not have a good shooting day in that round one. You expect him to do better in this game. But if I'm John Shire, I look at that and say, Carolina just beat us in round one. So we got to do something different. And a lot of times, coaches, you've just said there, and I think this is a critical point, doing something that seems like out of left field or unexpected. Like I think back to Coach Davis putting Leaky Black on Kihei Clark in his first year. Like that was something I never thought of happening, but it completely took Virginia out of their game. Something like that is what we're talking about. An unexpected matchup. I like that call of like, let's see what Mark Mitchell can do with Mondo and then put Flip on Harrison Ingram. Maybe like that could be something that could work for Duke. So folks, keep your eyes out for that. One of the things we're always watching for in these Carolina-Duke rivalry games is the matchups. So how does Duke come out matching up with Carolina, and how do they defend these guys? And in particular, probably, as Coach said, Elliot and then Armando. Now, a big part of this is going to be Carolina controlling the emotion of the game, not letting it get too big for them. And of course, it's Coach Rob. So we got to have a story time, and we got a special Duke story time coming at you today. But first, I'm going to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV, which is your destination for sports. From live games to highlights to in-depth analysis, Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire Stick that you can just plug right into your existing TV to get millions of movies and TV episodes. Whether it's March Madness or opening weekend of baseball, let's go Braves, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Legitimately, I have an Amazon Fire Stick on literally every TV in my household because I love the layout. I love the user experience. I love that my wife and kids can handle it quite easily. The remote is handy. It's even got little buttons to take me directly to Prime or Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu. So great. Also, Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free, including all of us at Locked On. Our content is on there, and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. So check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on that one. To learn more, visit amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. Coach Rob, one of the biggest things for a regular season finale, whether it is at home or on the road, is handling the emotion of it. We saw Carolina have to do that on Tuesday night at home for their senior night against Notre Dame. I thought they handled the emotion of that very well. Thank you very much. And came out and played a steady game, didn't get too high or too low in that moment. But Coach, this is kind of a different emotional high that Carolina is going to have to temper. How do they control their emotion in this moment?
The first thing I do as a coach is don't let my guys go out there and watch the senior night festivities. I don't want them to get caught up in the emotion of each of those guys walking out there with their families and getting their jerseys and listening to the crowd, give their cheers to those guys. They don't need to be out there for that. They want to try to keep things as normal as possible. Don't get caught up in any of that stuff. So that's a big thing for me. The fact that Armando and RJ have obviously been through that. Cormac's played there. Even though he's new to the program, he's played there. He's been part of that. Those conversations that are in the locker room or on the bus or in the dorm room, their apartment, wherever they are, the guys that are going to play are smart enough that they need some conversations. Hey, what's this going to be like? What's that? What do I need to expect when I got that crowd behind me yelling at me when I'm going, to make an inbounds pass and all those students are doing their stupid little things? What do I need to do to, and I believe those conversations are being had now. So that will prepare them better for exactly what they're going to expect. But to have three of your starters already been there, done that, I think that's huge for Saturday.
That's a good word. And not to mention, I know Jalen Withers isn't a starter, but he's obviously played there at Louisville, and Seth Trimble and Jalen Washington played at Duke last year as well. So that's a great point, Coach. And as we said earlier, RJ and Armando started a senior night at Duke 2 years ago, and they both had, that was the Iron 5 game. That was the game they both had 20 plus points. And so they've literally done it in this scenario. And truly, this game has so much on the line. Rivalry bragging rights, NCAA tournament seeding, like that's a critical part of this. Obviously, NCAA tournament placement. Can both of these teams find their way? I think Charlotte is one of the regional host sites there. And most importantly, and obviously, an ACC regular season championship on the line for the Tar Heels. They've already got at least a share, but Duke wants to grab a piece of that while the Tar Heels want to rip it away, excuse me, and have an outright ACC championship. So, Coach, when you've got that much on the line, that factors into this as well. How do you do you as a coach want the guys to think about those big picture things, or do you want them to just hone in on that kind of cliche, this is just a basketball game kind of side of it?
Well, from Hubert's perspective, I guarantee he's saying this is not just another game. This is a rivalry game. You want to win no matter what. But they don't want to share anything. Let's be honest. You don't want to share a title, and especially don't want to share it with Duke. So there's no way that this is just a normal game. Hubert couldn't sell that. Even if he tried to sell that to the guys, they know that this is going to be something special. So you got to go in there and say, hey, this is a war. This is something we've got to be able to win. And this gives us momentum into the conference tournament, which leads to the national tournament, obviously. But this is not just a normal game. Michael Brooker, a friend of mine, former Carolina player, he posted something the other day on Facebook and Twitter about, I think, something ridiculous. 46% of all conference tournaments have been either shared or won outright by Carolina. It's a ridiculous number. I apologize for not knowing the stats guy. I know you're a stat guy, but to think about the amount of the dominance that Carolina has had, they just want to make this one more part of that legacy to make sure that they know the dominance is still going forward.
And I think that's a good thing. Like, it often feels disingenuous to me when coaches are like, it's just a basketball game. It doesn't have big. Come on, man. We all know it's so much bigger than that. And so, yeah, like, own it. So we want this thing. Let's go out and take it. What's ours, Coach? I love you saying we don't want to share this with Duke. I love how vocal Harrison Ingram has been like, dude, we want this. We want to take this and make it ours. So let's go and do it, man. Big time game coming up Saturday. Obviously, we'll have even more preview for that on tomorrow's episode. But, Coach, we cannot get out of here with a little Duke-related story time from you. Story time with Coach Rob. I'll take it. Let you take it away there, Coach.
1997, moved from Texas to North Carolina, and people said, well, who do you root for? And I'm like, I don't root for anybody. So you have to root for Duke or Carolina. I said, I don't have one that I really root for, but I had an assistant at the time. His name was Todd Starkey. And if the Starkey name sounds somewhat familiar, he's the head women's coach at Kent State in Ohio. His son is Drew Starkey, who plays Rafe on a little show called Outer Banks, and got a chance to, he and Armando are now best friends, but his son at the time was about 7 years old. So, and kind of cool, but he worked Duke camp. So he said, hey, you want to come over during Carolina camp? He said, why don't you come over and just, tour Duke? And I said, yeah, sure. So got to go into Cameron, got to go in the elevator, got to go up to the offices, rode the elevator with Wojciechowski. That's how long ago it was. He was an assistant at the time. And I said, well, where's Coach K's office? He said, well, his office is on the top floor. You can't get on that floor. You need a hand scan or eye scan or something, some kind of code to be able to get on his floor. It's only he and his secretary. Nobody else gets on that floor unless you get invited. I thought, oh, that's really interesting. Went to Carolina camp, and a few years later, I'm in the lobby of the basketball offices, and Coach Williams' office is down the hallway, and I see this huge crowd of people. And I thought, man, there must be a big-time recruit. It was in the summer, but there was a huge crowd. So I just sat there in the lobby and watched them walk down the hallway with Coach Williams, and he walks in the lobby and says, who wants individual pictures? And everybody gets individual. Who wants it? Okay, let's get a group picture. And as he was getting ready to leave, he says, does everybody have what you want? Does everybody have what you need? And they said, yeah. They said, thanks, Coach. And he walked back to the office. They all walked out of the office. So I looked at the secretary. I said, who was that? He said, that was swim camp. I was like, swim camp gets access to Coach Williams? He's like, oh, yeah, Coach, that's anybody. If anybody wants to meet him and he's available and he's got time, yeah, he'll welcome everybody in. To me, that's the difference between Carolina and Duke. To me, when people say, well, there's no difference. They're both great programs. Yeah, but when you talk about family, Coach allows people to get into that family and be part of that Carolina family in a way that I don't think anybody else can. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think Carolina is the greatest program out there, is because you have people like that who just care about you. And he understood that swim camp, or it didn't matter what kind of camp it was, that people wanted to meet him. He invited them into his office, made sure they had everything they wanted, everything they needed before they left the office. And that's why I'm a Carolina fan. It's about the people. You talked about the Braves a second ago. I hate the Red Sox more than any team out there. I mean, even more than I hate Duke, I hate the Red Sox. I grew up that way.
Sure.
But my assistant right now, Alex Biggerstaff, is a Red Sox fan. So it takes away a little bit of my hatred because of family. I mean, Alex is he's part of my family. And if he likes the Red Sox, I don't enjoy them losing as much as I used to. But that's why Carolina is great, in my opinion. It's more than a brotherhood. It's a family. And Coach Williams is just the greatest. I think he's awesome. I love Hubert. I love this, just what they do here at Carolina. And that's why I'm rooting for them on Saturday night.
Yes, Coach Williams is exactly, that's right. And Coach Williams truly is the embodiment of that family, and everyone else feels it. Coach, here's my other favorite part of that story that you just told, beyond all the incredible Carolina side of it, is that when you moved there and people didn't say Duke or Carolina or NC State, the Wolfpack weren't even part of that conversation. It was just Carolina and Duke. So just NC State out here catching strays in a Tar Heel show. Man, that's great stuff. Coach, thanks so much for sharing that story. And it's not shocking. That's what's even cooler. It's like, that's just Coach Williams' nature, and you love to hear it. All right, gang. Great show. Great to be together. We've also got a bonus episode out today with Andy Bagwell, who is the co-author of Duke Sucks and Duke Still Sucks. So make sure you tune in to catch that bonus episode. You might recall that book from being in the I Hate Christian, whatever, the Christian Laettner ESPN 30 for 30. So make sure you tune in to that. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, man, you need to come be part of it, especially as we get ready for Saturday. You're going to want to be in there in the game day thread for that. The link is in the show notes. It's free to be a part of. Come join it. If you're not subscribed to the show on YouTube and audio, please make sure to do that. If you're watching on YouTube, just hit that subscribe button. Also hit the smash the like button so we know you are here. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.